What is up, guys? It is Will Sports, and today I'm going to be talking about the Jrue Holiday trade that went down. The Boston Celtics and the Portland Trailblazers agreed on a deal. Jrue Holiday will go to the Celtics, and the Celtics will send back to the Blazers Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, and 2 first-round picks. So we knew Jrue Holiday was going to be moved immediately after that, Dame trade went down. I think it was just something that was going to help facilitate the trade so Portland could get somewhat equal value back so they could flip him into more assets that would make that trade make more sense. And that's exactly what they did. I didn't know if it would happen this soon or if it would happen, during the season, but it happened, now. So I think it was a good trade for the Blazers, definitely. For Boston, I like the trade, don't get me wrong. I just think it's a lot. I wouldn't have wanted to give up Robert Williams, but they do have Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, so maybe they felt like he was a little more expendable because of that. But I would have definitely wanted to keep Robert Williams because when you look at the Celtics team now, the front court depth is really limited. They signed William Gabriel a few hours ago, but William Gabriel's not really anybody that's moving anyone. He's not a guy you're going to play in the playoffs. So I still think that's going to be a problem. But I do understand going to get Jrue Holiday. And so overall, I would say it's a net positive. I do like it more for Portland, though. But Jrue Holiday fills a lot of holes that they needed. He's a good playmaker. Somebody who can get guys in their spots. Now, he's not like a Chris Paul. He's not like a, John Stockton type of point guard. But, he's good at, getting the ball to other guys, creating open shots, getting the ball to the right guy. He's been doing that with Giannis. He's been doing that with Chris Middleton. He runs the pick and roll well. So I think he's going to be a guy that helps with that because they didn't have a lead ball handler, after they gave up Marcus Smart. And even Marcus Smart wasn't that type of guy. That's always been something that the Boston Celtics have seemed to lack in the Tatum Brown era is they don't have a true point. But Jrue Holiday feels a lot of what they needed because when you give up Marcus Smart like they did earlier this offseason, he was their grit guy, their hustle guy, their guy that's you can put him on the other team's best player regardless of the position, and he can hold up and he's strong. He's got the similar body type of Marcus Smart. So Jrue Holiday is gonna fill in a lot of those holes, and he's probably a better offensive player than Marcus Smart. So he's an upgrade. He's an all-star level player. So Jrue Holiday is a great pickup. I think when you look at Boston now, the starting five's elite. You have Jrue Holiday, you have Jaylen Brown at the 2, you have Jason Tatum at the 3, and Porzingis and Horford at the 5. This is a team with size. They have all 5 of these guys can shoot the ball. All these guys can put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. They're Holiday, Tatum, and Brown can. And all of these guys are capable of having nights where they're going for 20 points a game. But then all of them are, solid defenders. Now, Porzingis isn't known for being a great defender or anything, but just off his size alone, he's going to help the Celtics a lot in that back end because it's not easy. Regardless, it's not easy to put the ball over a 7'3" dude. So he's not going to be a liability defensively unless you're, bringing him out to the perimeter, which I'm sure teams will try to exploit. But you have guys that can be great help side defenders. That's something Boston's predicated themselves on. Horford's a great help side defender, always has been. So I think Boston's gonna be fine in terms of their defense still, even without Robert Williams. But I would have definitely loved to keep Robert Williams just in case of injury or foul trouble. Because you don't really have depth, and that is a concern I have for the Celtics team. Now you're relying on Derek White is obviously a great player, to have coming off your bench, and I'm sure he'll be their 6th man now. But you're relying on guys like O'Shea Brissett, Peyton Pritchard, William Gabriel, Jordan Walsh, Sam Hauser, not moving anybody. It's not a lineup of guys that have proven anything in the playoffs. A lot of those guys are not bucket getters and aren't guys you can trust. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they fill out this rotation or where they go. Maybe somebody breaks out. I could be wrong. Maybe one of these guys will have a breakout year with more opportunity. But I don't love their bench at all. And I think that's something that is going to have to be addressed as the season goes on. But I will say Boston right now will be my favorite to come out the East after this move. And I think it's obviously them in Milwaukee are obviously a tier above, but everyone else, I don't buy Philly as a championship contender. We've seen that enough. I'm tired of believing in Philly not doing that again. Miami is always a threat in the playoffs, but they don't have, like, their offense is just not something that, I think you have Tyler Hero who's coming back. That should have helped them, but you did nothing to address the losses of Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, who were two integral parts of them getting to the finals. I know Jimmy carried them in the first round, but after that first round, that's when the rest of the roster really kind of made a name for themselves. Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. Miami's not going to be the same team, in my opinion, unless they can find another guy that can go get them 20 points a night. And Tyler Hero is a good scorer, but they're going to need more to be able to compete with a Bucks team that just got significantly better, offensively at least, and the Celtics, who added two guys who can give you 20 a night, in Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. So I think Boston and Milwaukee are clearly a tier above, but Boston, I still think, even though, like I said, they have questionable depth, just like Milwaukee, they are still going to be a top 5 defense in the league. And last year, they were a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. I have more faith in their defense than I do in Milwaukee's, just because the perimeter defense on the Celtics team is elite. I mean, you have 3 really good perimeter defenders in Jrue Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, too. And I'm sure O'Shea Brissett is another guy who, like I said, will come off their bench, who can be another solid, defender for them, big body. Give them some extra wing depth. But I trust their defense, a little more. Now, coaching was a big issue for the Celtics last year, and closing games. Those are issues I'm not sure if they've been addressed this offseason, because Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis are great scorers, but none of them are known for being closers. Jrue Holiday, is sort of an inefficient offensive player. So I still think those are things that could be questions for the Celtics. But when I look at this roster, I think that right now I would trust them more than I trust the Bucks, just because of the versatility on both offense and defense. You have a guy in Al Horford who has done a good job against Giannis in his career. I think in Giannis's last 8 matchups against Horford, he's averaging 33 a game. Now, Giannis is going to average 30 plus against basically anybody because he's dominant. You're not really going to stop him. But Horford does a good job of making him inefficient, making it tough on him. I think Giannis is shooting 46% from the field against Al Horford in his last 8 matchups, and that includes his time in Philly, and then that includes the playoff series they played in 2022 when it went 7 games. Giannis averaged like 33 in that series, but he only shot 45% from the field. So I think Horford is a guy who can do a good job on Giannis. So that gives me some faith in a matchup. And the Celtics have just had the Bucks number, in their matchups. They beat them last year in the playoffs, but then last year, several matchups, they dominated the Bucks. And a lot of people, when we saw those matchups, we were thinking, the Bucks just don't match up well with the Celtics team. They're not as athletic, and they still aren't as athletic. They really don't have a lot of wing depth on that team, and guys like Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder, those are the guys that would be guarding Tatum and Brown, and I just don't see that working. Dame is, had a playoff series against Jrue Holiday before, and that was his worst playoff series of his career. So the Celtics match up well with the Bucks, in my opinion, and I think that's the most important thing, because even though I guess they have questionable depth, if you match up well with the other best team in the Eastern Conference, then I have to like your chances. Now, I would not pick them against Denver. Denver is my favorite to come out the West and win the title, but they would be my pick to come out the East right now based off this trade. Like I said, Boston, overall solid move. Don't really think it was something I couldn't understand. I could definitely understand why they did it. I just would have loved if they could kept, Robert Williams, but the picks don't bother me. Boston acquired picks in that Kristaps Porzingis trade just so they could flip those for other assets, other players. So it makes sense to give those up. But it's still a really good roster overall and going to be the favorites in the East, in my opinion. Let me talk about Portland side of things, though. You get, DeAndre Ayton and now Robert Williams in that front court. That was something I desperately think they needed to address. because they already had enough guard, depth with Shaden, Scoot, and Simons. And now you add Brogdon, the defending sixth man of the year, to that. So they're fine in the backcourt. They're loaded in that backcourt. I think they needed interior presence and wing depth, and they sort of addressed that, with these trades. Now, they're a team that's still gonna need to, figure out if they're gonna start, Scoot right off the bat. I think they should, and have Brogdon come off the bench, because Brogdon came off the bench for Boston. I think he'll be fine with that. I think he's going to take on that veteran leadership role. Who knows? Maybe someone else, maybe another contender will try to trade for him down the road, so he could be another asset Portland uses. But, I think the Blazers did really solid in their return for Dame and now Jrue Holiday. They got back plenty of draft compensation. They're getting back guys that fill needs on the roster, and they're moving in a different direction. And I think just the overall morale of the roster has to be good. And this is a solid core of players. They have a good roster. You have Scoot, Shaden, Simons in that backcourt, and then you're going to have Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton starting in your front court. And then now you have Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench. I'm assuming this is how it would go. Trendon Watford was pretty solid for them in some of the minutes he got last year. So Portland has a pretty good roster, and they're a team I can see competing for a play-in spot. So I think what they did, moving off Dame, finally moving into a new era, is very smart. And I think that this team is going to show a lot of signs of improvement, already in this first season. I think they're going to be a competitive team. I think Portland, like I said, DeAndre Ayton's a guy that he was not great in Phoenix, and the mood was not great there, and he was not a good locker room guy for them. But he's in a new environment, so I expect him to be a lot better. And Simons is a guy that averaged 20 last year. Scoot, it's a lot of people's pick to win Rookie of the Year, highly touted rookie. Shaden Sharp averaged 20 in his limited time of being the main guy for the Blazers last year when Dame got shut down and the Blazers were trying to go full-on tank mode. Shaden Sharp was playing great basketball. So you're going to have a good team. And Chauncey Billups, he has a lot to work with, and I think the Blazers will be competitive. But, you look at the future, all the draft picks they have, it's huge that they got all that draft compensation. Whether they want to use it in trades down the road or just for extra, pieces for depth, to fill depth on the roster down the road when they have to pay guys. So, solid return for the Blazers. But yeah, I would say the Blazers won this trade in the short term, just because I like everything they got back for Dame in general. I think they addressed the needs like they needed and got a lot of draft compensation. I feel like they did a great job. But the Boston Celtics, even though I don't feel like they lost the trade in a vacuum, I think they did a solid job. But I like it more for the Blazers than I like it for the Celtics, just because even though the Celtics got better, I still think the lack of depth could be an issue. And Jrue Holiday is good, but he doesn't move the needle enough for me to be like they're, by far the best team in the East. They're still in a neck and neck battle with Milwaukee, but he makes them better. And he fills in that Marcus Smart role very well. So I think it was a solid trade. Let me know what you guys think down below. Boston and Portland get this deal done. Jrue Holiday to the Celtics. Very fun offseason. Can't wait for the season to start. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, it's been Will Sports. Peace.